I'm sharing this link with the group.
I mean, should I wait for that or just read?
Okay. Whew.
So it just disconnected you?
My iPad turned off completely,
Oh,
which would make, I mean, it was dead. Hi, Tater Tot, hush your mouth, whatever you're about to say. Just kidding. Uh, Thanks for hanging with us, guys. Y'all know we better get this word because clearly somebody's trying to interfere. I don't know exactly what we need to pay attention to, but is somebody having an affair? I'm just kidding.
I was like, it was the wayward woman. What are you talking about?
With a crafty woman. Oh my goodness, you guys. It just completely just my screen just went blank. It's one thing if you're like not prepared, which I was, and then plans changed, so I switched, and then we made a couple, technical anyway. But there's no reason for my screen to have gone blank. Literally, it didn't make sense. So what I'm going to say is listen exquisitely. I hope that you are listening exquisitely because the Lord wants to speak today. Sorry, I look crazy. I think actually I look crazy every morning, but I did know. Hi, Tater Tot. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Tammy. Hopefully, Teresa and the others make it over. And let's just get into Proverbs 8 because the word is trying to be wording. The blessings of wisdom. Jesus. It almost makes you want to like not do anything, right? Don't move, don't. Does not wisdom call? Does not understanding raise her voice? On the heights beside the way, at the crossroads, she takes her stand. I love, love this chapter. Hi, Mary. Thank you for coming back. This is such a good verse, guys. Lord, give us wisdom. We need it in abundance. Here's what wisdom does. Picture it. You could just lay down, close your eyes, and make this a meditation. On the heights beside the way, at the crossroads, she takes her stand. Beside the gates in front of the town, at the entrance of the portals, she cries aloud, "To you, O men, I call, and my cry is to the children of man. O simple ones, learn prudence. O fools, learn sense. Hear, for I will speak noble things, and from my lips will come what is right, for my mouth will utter truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are righteous. There is nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are all straight to him who understands. They are right to those who find knowledge. Take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare with her. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. The fear of the Lord is hatred of evil, pride and arrogance, and the way of evil, and perverted speech I hate. I have counsel and sound wisdom. I have insight. I have strength. Be my kings reign and rulers decree what is just. By me, kings reign and rulers decree what is just. By me, princes rule and nobles, all who govern justly. I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. Riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, even fine gold, and my yield than choice silver. I walk in the way of righteousness and the paths of justice, granting an inheritance to those who love me and filling their treasures. The Lord possessed me at the beginning of his work, the first of his acts of old. Ages ago, I was set up at the first, before the beginning of the earth. Sorry. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no springs abounding with water. Before the mountains had been shaped, before the hills I was brought forth. Before he had made the earth with its fields, or the first of the dust of the world. When he established the heavens, I was there. I love it so much. When he drew a circle on the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when he established the fountains of the deep, when he assigned to the sea its limits. This is a Proverbs that is a great description of boundaries, so that the waters might not transgress his command. When he marked out the foundations of the earth, listen, babes, listen to who was there before he started setting boundaries. Then I was beside him like a master workman, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing before him always, rejoicing in his inhabited world, and delighting in the children of man. And now, O sons, listen to me. Blessed are those who keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise, and do not neglect it. Blessed is the one who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting beside my doors. For whoever finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. But he who fails to find me injures himself. All who hate me love death. Whoo, that's one of my favorite chapters. Wisdom is my bestie. And wisdom was there first. First wisdom, then boundaries. Look at God. First wisdom, then creation of all good things. And before even setting any of those things, before that, there was a relationship with wisdom that was built, that was practiced, that was engaged in. There was a relationship. She said, because wisdom is spoken in the female. Wisdom says, and before that, I was his delight. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Thank you, God, for wisdom. Go ahead, babe.
Okay. I think something that's interesting I've never, I guess, thought about before, because I've always read most of the time these chapters by, one day at a time, or just kind of as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
But how the chapter before talks about the wayward, right? The wayward woman, whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then and it's a female, and then the next one is talking about the wisdom, which is a female. And so, which like tells you, and it can be for man too, right? But like you're making choices. Like you're either going to have wisdom and make some good choices and have boundaries, like what you're saying, or you're going to make some decisions that lead not just men astray, but it can be anybody astray, but that either you have wisdom and you're doing what God says, or you're having your own wisdom and you're leading people astray, you're leading yourself astray, you're going the wrong direction. And how it compares the woman both ways. It shows you two different ways.
Yeah.
So
You're either going to be Proverbs 7 or Proverbs 8. Which is it going to be? And let
yeah.
me just say something that I always want to point out when we're talking about in Proverbs. I just want to say we are all this woman. We all
Yeah.
thirst. We all crave. We all have manipulated. We have all positioned ourselves and taken opportunity to self soothe in unhealthy ways. She is not her. She's me. She's Chris. She's you. She is an example of anyone who is not satisfied, soaking and feeding on God and the wisdom of God. Like Chris said, setting those boundaries. That I love that you pointed that out, Chris, because it's great. Like we could sit down and just go, what are the differences between this female and this female? Proverbs 7, Proverbs 8. Proverbs 7, she is not satisfied. Her delight is not filled. She is not content. What is Proverbs 8 woman? She's not seeking to be content in anything. She's seeking to be his delight.
Right. Like, yeah, I mean, the Proverbs 7 is
First is to please, to be God's delight, not to be delighted. Woo!
The Proverbs 7 is definitely like, it's about her. It's about, whether she's unhappy at home, whether, she's comparing, whether she's all the things that we could do today. If you want to make it like today, like you get on social media and you compare and you look, you all these things, and it can
Mm,
lead your mind into a path that takes you to that kind of direction to where you're thinking and it's all about you. And I'm not happy, and my husband's going away. He doesn't make me happy. So I'm going to go get fulfilled or do whatever, to try to fulfill this happiness thing. And versus Proverbs 8 is, it's all about, God. Like, it's
yeah.
seeking him, seeking boundaries, seeking wisdom, staying in that close connection so that you don't go the other way.
hmm And Proverbs 7, you see a picture, a description of her stepping outside of her boundaries.
Yeah.
And in Proverbs 8, you see boundaries, the description, the visual of boundaries being set. It's so good. I love that comparison, babe. That's good. That's a good word.
All right. Chapter 9, wisdom, the way of wisdom. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn, I don't know that word.
Hewn,
Hewn, it is hewn. What does
mhm,
hewn mean?
like put together, created, made him.
Okay. I mean, when I saw it, I thought of like sewn, like what you're saying, put together, but I didn't know. She
It's
has.
sorry, it's to chop or cut something.
Oh well, see that I had
I
no.
thought it was that as well.
She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered. Well, okay. She has slaughtered her beast. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her young woman to call from the highest places in town. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. To him who lacks sense, she says, come and eat of my bread and drink of my wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways and live, and walk in the way of insight. Whoever corrects a scoffer gets himself abuse, and he who reproves a wicked man and cures injury. Do not reprove a scoffer, or he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. For by me your days will be multiplied, and your years be added to your life. If you are wise, you are wise for yourself. If you scoff, you alone will bear it. The way of folly. Verse 13. The woman folly is loud, she is seductive and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house, she takes a seat on the high places of the town, calling to those who pass by, who are going straight to their way. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. That's it.
Hmm. Okay, I'm going to head into the recap. Let me see if we've got.
So this chapter is kind of like both. It's got
Proverbs 7 through 9 recap. Today we continue our progress. Hold on. Getting an error that the video is private right now? What?
I'll try to change the setting now.
It says public. Okay. I will say usually, like if you can't find one of our lives, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was probably one of the other ones. When we go live, um, from we have to do the guest thing. We have to do the guest thing on iPads. It doesn't work on laptop or phones. Um, I was like, "Who's Joey?" And so when we do that, it automatically goes to private. So if you don't see our lives, it's because we figured out down the road I have to go back and update things, including switch it through on the back end, and it only lets me do that after. So immediately when we get off, we don't know when it actually goes live because it takes a little time. It doesn't immediately. So it processes, and then at some point I got to go back and change it from private to public. So we've learned some things along the way. Today we continue our progress. Glad you're here, Teresa. Today we continue our progress through Proverbs, and we're still in the dad's advice to his son and his warning about adultery. He wants these words to be in his son's line of sight and on his hands and in his heart. All three of those areas, eyes, hand, and heart, are important aspects of walking in holiness and purity. If the son has this wisdom, at the forefront of these places, eyes, hands, heart, he won't be drawn to the adulteress. It's easy to hear the phrase the adulteress and think of someone who is intentionally seeking to seduce. While that's possible, it's not exclusively referring to that. It could be someone the son seeks out and pursues. In fact, chapter 7, verse 8 refers to the son walking to her house at night. She meets him on the way, but he seems to go of his own volition. Oh, he does. As she lays the flattery on thick, the fools fall for it. The dad warns his son repeatedly that this is the path to death. It's not a subtle warning. He repeats it over and over, using different language and even violent language. throughout the passage just to make sure he gets the point across. He describes the adulteress as a loud woman who sidles up to the son and seduces him in the street. Then he describes another woman who cries out in the street, but this woman is wisdom personified. She raises her voice to call out too. She tells the fools and simpletons to listen to her. She begins to describe herself. She lives with prudence, knowledge, and discretion, and she hates pride. She hates pride, arrogance, evil, and perverted speech. Whew. She lives with prudence, knowledge, and discretion, and she hates pride, arrogance, evil, and perverted speech. She talks about the benefits she offers to anyone in relationship with her: counsel, sound wisdom, insight, strength, leadership, justice, love, riches, honor, enduring wealth, and righteousness. She was a tool in the hand of God when he created the earth. And as the fool pursued the adulteress, by going down the path to her house, the woman wisdom can be pursued in the same way. Look at that. More compare and contrast between the two. I like that. As the fool pursued the adulteress, wisdom can also be pursued in the same way. She says, "Blessed is the one who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting beside my doors. For whoever finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord." She doesn't tackle the son like the adulteress does or make a sneak attack. She asks to be pursued. And while the adulteress is the path to death, wisdom is the path to life. And to love God is to hate evil. The juxtapositions are obvious and intentional. The dad lays two options out for his son, and he's clearly indicating which path is right. Chapter 9 personifies both wisdom and folly, and they both cry out to the simple-minded person. Folly sounds a lot like the adulteress from chapter 7. Wisdom offers the son something lasting, and the adulteress takes something lasting from him. The dad's advice concludes, and it's interesting to note what percentage of it is centered around encouraging the son to avoid sexual sin and pursue wisdom instead. How many a man do you know whose lives, families, wisdom, businesses, integrity, character have been obliterated by lust, by sexual sin? Not that there's not women, but I love this. For my man, for your future man, remember this. Let's pray that our men are given the words from God and the wisdom and how to develop trusting relationships with their sons first, and second, with that trust, the dad's advice concludes, and it's interesting to note what percentage of dad's advice is centered around encouraging the son to avoid sexual sin and pursue wisdom instead. Those pursuits are opposed to each other. You can't simultaneously pursue both. The results of those pursuits are juxtaposed too. The dad seems to know a lot about this. Perhaps he's made this mistake in his own life, and that's why he's so emphatic about it. Or maybe he's pursued wisdom and realized how beneficial it was to him, or maybe both, because Solomon is the one who wrote this. Proverbs 9. I mean,
Well, I mean, they think that.
Solomon, the man who asked God for wisdom, had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Holy moly, guys.
That man
Listen
didn't
to
have no sense.
that.
That man didn't have no sense.
Don't say that about people.
Just kidding. The kind of sense that he was, that's what they're talking about. He was full of
Listen to
wisdom, but no
that.
sense.
I'm going to finish this and come back. Wow, that hit me. In his life, it seems like he learned both lessons, the value of wisdom and the foolishness of sexual sin. He tested the world out and came away with some advice based on his experience. He hopes to spare his son from making the same mistakes he did. Today's God shot. There wasn't porn back then like we have it now. So I wonder if that was a way in which it manifested. I'm
What do you mean?
just all the wives,
Oh,
just ready,
well,
available for him to look at, whatever, whatever.
for sure. Especially when you're a king, the power. Like if you, just like what David did, just like if you call for a woman, she's coming. I mean, because you're the king. So yeah,
Did I know Solomon wrote this? I knew that part was a father to the son. I learned that here. And I'm sure that we said that. And it says it's at least primarily Solomon.
right,
But think about that. Let me get this gotcha. Proverbs 8:30-31 describes wisdom, but some scholars say it also points to Christ. It was beside him like a master workman, and I was beside him like a master workman, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing before him always, rejoicing in his inhabited world, and delighting in the children of man. The Hebrew words for delight and rejoicing carry the connotations of playing and frolicking. What's it like for God to frolic? He seems positively giddy at creation, smiling with affection and amusement. Can you imagine? That's how God feels about us and about wisdom. That's how wisdom feel about us. Is that a typo? God's happy. God is happy. And he's where the joy is. And somehow we still finish the reading by 8.
job did.
And that's how wisdom feel about us. Well, anyway. Okay. I just listen to the picture we've come to because we've read this chronologically and because we've just walked with not only Solomon but his father, knowing that specifically sexual sin is such a unique sin in scripture, right? It because it's against the body. And the word says that's where that should be where your freedom, where your deliverance, where your rest. Everything with the body is what needs rest. Everything with the body is what needs cleansing. Everything with the body is where the one form of God brings revelation and wisdom and guides you. And sexual sin is something we don't even know. Honestly, if I don't know if you guys realize this, but the amount of men that are just plagued with um, this spirit, these chains of pornography is more than you think, like 10 times more. And that's just from those that we know. Okay. Knowing that, and then having allowed, God is using our men and the things that are not right within them. He will use it, right? In Solomon, knowing Solomon wrote this, knowing Solomon is trying to give advice to his son, looking at how much he talks around sexual sin. And then she says this: one, you can't pursue sexual sin and wisdom. You cannot. And then it says, she reminds us Solomon wrote this. The man who asked God for wisdom. Remember his very first test as king? The ladies with the babies? He asked God for wisdom. I used that. Mary, you said, Alexa, off. Mary, you said, I love that verse. That really pulled it out for me. And I used that verse the next day in the speaking thing about stewarding my father's business. And Solomon asked for wisdom to lead the people. He asked for that. And he also had 700 wives and 300 concubines. This is significant. It's so significant. I think, babe, I think that in your notes of things to preach and teach on, and in your legacy men stuff, sexual sin is going to come up. And in that, this would be such a great story to bring out for men to see, even bring them up, bring this visual. I'm seeing like a man with a crown, and he's the king, and he's on his knees, and he's asking for wisdom. And at the same time, there's this room full of women. Just put a room full of women. And then as he goes to his son, his legacy, babe, I'm giving you an entire sermon here. As he goes to his son, bring a little boy up. As he goes to his legacy, what does he say? Don't go after the woman. That's the adultery over and over. She says, it's interesting to note what percentage of his advice is centered around encouraging the son to avoid sexual sin and pursue wisdom instead. The two things that he pursued. You guys, that's so good. Babe, why are you not writing this down?
I don't have anything to write with.
If I was a man, he prayed to have three things: a discerning heart to help govern his people and to distinguish between right and wrong. The Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? That's verse 9. Man.
I think just kind of like the comparison with the women, the two different women, like it's the same thing. The struggle, Solomon's like bringing out the struggle for man, like how difficult. Like here's a guy that asked God for wisdom. He clearly had wisdom. Was a good king, made a lot of good decisions for his country, his people, and yet the women was a struggle. And so there's this comparison of where, and what kind of like what you talked about, you can't, when you're walking in wisdom, right? Your body, let's someone back up. Your body is the temple, right? God dwells in it. So when you're walking in that wisdom and you're seeking him and you have your boundaries and you have like God is he's guiding your path, right? So he's making your steps, he's making your way. But when you're deep into that the sexual sin or any sin, but here we're talking about the sexual sin, like God can't dwell in that.
Right.
So he dwells in you, he loves you, but he cannot dwell. You can't get the wisdom and that at the same time, because it says you don't have sense right now. Like you don't have any sense. You're not making wise decisions. So therefore, God, you know, it's so that's the struggle, like of, and I mean, you know, when you are in those times when the enemy has got you confused and deceived, you reason out everything, justify everything, you try to make it all sound like it's okay, you try to find people to get around you to make what you're doing okay, you do everything in the world, but at the end of the day, when you lay your head on the pillow, you know, like, this is so not right, this is so not good, because as a believer you can't live in that and go to bed at night knowing it's okay. So, so that's that struggle, you know, of the tension.
Teresa Williams. Carry on, Chris Johnson. Move on. Move on.
um, so it's, um, sorry. Um, it's just that huge struggle, right? So, and the sexual part for men, like the Real Men 300 that I'm in, even just the other night, the whole thing was centered around the sexual thing and lust, and because there's some of the guys, the guy that leads the whole group, I mean, his thing, he had a sexual addiction, like, big time. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women, right? So this, and destroyed his marriage, did all these things. um
Amanda. Amanda with a not with you too.
I have some things I could say with that, but
Stop.
I won't.
No, you don't.
um the so you see, like, and so one of the cool things about what he did in that group was he's like, there's warning signs, there's danger zones, and there's these different areas, and what he was teaching with the guys is, you got to know, you got to set up warning signs. You don't even want to get close to the danger zone, you
Mm.
don't want to get close to, you got to have things that, for you, whatever that looks like for you, that's a warning. Like, if it's going to the gym at a certain time where there's going to be a whole bunch of girls, and like what they were saying, wearing Lululemon pants and a sports bra, and you struggle with that, you don't need to go at that time. Go at 4 in the morning when nobody's there, or whatever. Like, whatever that is for you.
Mm.
One of the guys was talking about driving by a strip club, how that's a huge thing. Like, I've never even been to one. That's not a thing for me. But so it's those things, like having the warning signs enough ahead of time to go, hey, that's a trigger. Then the other part of that is, for men, is having someone that can keep you accountable, and to be honest. And some of the guys were talking about, like, with their wives, they can do that. Like, they can text their wife and go, babe, I need you to pray for me right now, I'm struggling with this thought, or the enemy's coming at me. And some men were talking about, man, if I said it to my wife, she would,
Well, that comes with being in a safe place together, therapy,
right.
healing her heart first, so that
Right.
you can
And her
speak.
knowing what's going on. Like,
Right.
right. And then other guys were talking about they could, but then there's guys talking about being able to share with each other. Just send a text message going, you know, some kind of what's the word, safe word or whatever. Like, to a buddy, you don't have to say everything going on. You just text it to where that guy can pray for you.
Yeah.
So having those accountability, having those things in places, because for the man, especially today, like what you're talking about, the pornography thing is just, it's crazy. So, just the wisdom around, like what we're talking about, the wisdom around having sense enough to know how to set boundaries, how to put warning signs in place. And that can be for men and women. It's not that women don't lust. It's not that women can't have, because I think women do. It's not as rampant as men, but they definitely do. So, Yeah, like the covenant eyes, Teresa.
Oh,
There's all kinds of things, that having your phone where your wife or husband can look at it at any time. All those things to be put in place, just because you have to, because the enemy is so good. And if you guys think about it, like he does it like in the times when you and your wife or husband are fighting, right? Something happens and you argue and you go off to work, or something happens and something pops in your DM or whatever. The enemy knows,
yeah.
and he will slide something in there and make something happen to where all of a sudden it just gives you enough not having no sense to think differently.
I don't
uh,
think you should say that
Not having sense.
anymore. Hmm.
What says it in the Bible? But okay. um
Where?
Proverbs 7, 8, and 9
No, it doesn't say having no sense. It says pursuing.
says no sense.
Uh,
Go back and read it. All right.
mm,
My version says you ain't got no sense. All right. So it just um anyway, I just think, it's for everybody having that protection. Men, I think more so, but I but both for sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that.
that's good. It was really good.
I mean, because let's think about, I would say 99.9% of the time that a husband or a wife has an affair, at the end of it, they go, "Man, I'm so glad I did that. I just jacked up my whole family." No, who in the hell says that? Like, no. So, yeah.
I don't know if you're supposed to say hell on here, babe.
Oh, sorry.
Ah, um, I want to read some of the things that
Everything's going crazy right now. I don't know if you can hear me. It like went in fast forward mode. Hello?
babe just finished. It did the same thing. It's plugged in and it just went away, and I back on it, but
Okay.
it's not letting
So
me.
can you guys still hear me? Teresa said I thought she was super concentrating. She's hilarious. All right. Can you guys, well, see, I don't know. Can you guys still hear me? If she left, it may shut us down. Okay. Okay. Last time it knocked me off. Okay, cool. All right, so I guess I'll just close it out. Good word today. Um, and I would encourage you to go back and just read those again. Um, just to reread them, think through all that, like having that wisdom, and think about. And here's what I would say: think about the strategy of the enemy. Um, the enemy's strategy is to destroy. So that's what I would say. All right. You guys have a great day. He's where the joy is. 1, 2, 3. He's where the joy is. Hearts up. And we will see you tomorrow morning at 7 in the morning. Peace out. Have a great day.